Becoming a great photographer in 2026 doesn't need to be extremely overwhelming. It can be simple if you know what to focus on. Hi, I'm Hugo. I've done photography for soon 9 years, and this is the kind of photos I started out with, and this is the kind of photos I do take right now. In this video, I'll go through the exact steps I would take now if I was starting out photography. First, I would not worry about camera gear. I would just focus on getting a camera of some sort and then a lens to it. One of the most asked questions I get all the time is, what camera should I get and what lenses should I get? And the answer is, unfortunately, that I can't tell you because it really depends on what you're gonna use it for. Because if you take landscape photos, then you don't need all the same features as a wildlife photographer needs. Like if I take landscape photos, I don't need a good autofocus, but then a wildlife photographer will really benefit from a great autofocus. So this really depends on what you want to photograph. So I would just get a camera and then one lens. Before we dive further, if you would actually want to see the exact kit that I use to make my photographs, so the camera, all the lenses, and all the other tools that I use to make my photos, then make sure to get my gear list from the link in the description. But here are a few things I would make sure that the camera I get has. First, I want to make sure I can actually change lenses, because lenses, like I'm gonna talk in a bit, are the thing that makes for the biggest difference in your photographs. So I want to make sure I can change lenses. Then 2, I would make sure I have autofocus. Even though, like my focus right now typically is nature scenes where there isn't too many things moving. I wouldn't need autofocus for that, but I still like having an autofocus of some sorts, and ideally a good one. There are some people who say like, oh, just always take landscape photos with manual focus because then you're gonna get a sharper photo. But the thing is that these people are speaking nonsense, that autofocus typically can do even a better job than you can do manually. So that's why I just use autofocus for most of my landscape photographs as well. Then thirdly, I would make sure that there's some sort of a stabilization in the camera and the lens. Because if you're anything like me, you don't want to carry a tripod everywhere. Like, it makes photography less fun for me. So I want to make sure that I can take sharp photos more easily, even without a tripod. And then megapixels, I would make sure that the megapixels are between 12 and 24 at least. You don't need like 100 megapixels, like that's just is a waste of money in most cases. I have 24 megapixels as of right now, and I found it that it's absolutely enough, especially when I don't print large. And if you aren't planning on printing, you're gonna be also fine with 12 megapixels. 24 and above is the optimal, because then you do have more chance to crop your images, but 12 is also good enough. I would likely go and see what used gear there is available. I haven't bought used camera bodies myself. I have always just got a new one, but I've got used lenses in the past. And that's what I would recommend overall, to get used gear if you just can find some gear used what you actually want to buy. Then as a lens, I would just focus on getting one lens at the start, and I would get something that has flexibility. I wouldn't get a prime lens. I think that would be a stupid move for most people, because then you can't zoom in, and at the beginning especially, you don't know yet what kind of photos exactly you want to make. You do assume that you know, but it might be that then you want to do something completely else. So I would get a lens with flexibility, probably something like 24 to 105, 24 to 70, something along those lines. So you can get those wide angle photographs and then also zoom in. So yeah, I would get that kind of a lens at the start. Then I would make sure I gain extreme confidence in using my camera. What I tell my students inside my Storylines mentorship is that you are good enough with your camera when you can operate the most important functions blindfolded. Yes, blindfolded. I find that when I don't need to see what I'm changing when using my camera is when I can actually focus on capturing the best photograph. So I don't need to like look at things. I can just focus on the scene that I'm photographing. And the thing is, after now taking a ton of photos over the years, I have noticed that the best photographs typically require you to be fast. You don't have ages to figure out what settings to use and see where is what button. You need to be operate very fast. So I would make sure I can operate my camera blindfolded. And here I want to say though, when it comes to settings, I would learn what settings to adjust so I can get a proper exposure, and then what settings are required for me to get a sharp photograph. But I wouldn't obsess over settings. Most photographers out there, especially on YouTube, make these videos on like, oh, these are the best settings to have, and oh, don't do this and do this. And the thing is that most people talk about settings is because most beginners find it interesting and it gets more views. But the truth is that in photography, if you just get the settings right, that doesn't make you a good photographer. You just are another like button clicker. What makes a difference between a button clicker and a great photographer is not settings, it is storytelling. And about that, I'm gonna be diving deeper later on. So I would make sure I know how to get a well exposed and sharp photograph, but I wouldn't obsess over settings. As long as it hits those marks, it's good enough. And yeah, you don't need to have perfectly sharp photographs as well. So don't pixel peep. Then now, as I would have my gear ready to go and I would understand the settings overall, I have practiced enough that I am confident in using the camera, even blindfolded, then I would just go and explore and take more photographs. There are people who say like, oh, pick a niche. And you might be tempted to pick a niche, like, okay, I'm gonna become a landscape photographer, I'm gonna take nature photos, I'm gonna go take wildlife photos, street photos. But the truth is that in the beginning, before you have taken a lot of photos, you don't know what you actually want to photograph. So I would just recommend that once you have your gear, you just go and take photos of everything you find interesting. In the beginning, I took portraits of my family. I took wildlife photos, I took landscape photos, I took other nature photos, macro photos, street photos. I took everything. And then I just found that for me, outdoor photography is the way that I want to go. I find the most fulfillment in that. And also my area where I was living, Finland, did allow me to, of course, more easily take nature photos than something else because I was surrounded by it. So don't pick a niche in the beginning, just take photos of everything and you will find what you like to photograph. Then I would make sure I do not underestimate the local possibilities for photography. If you're anything like me, you love to travel the world and explore what's out there, and it's easy to ignore what's right in front of you. I believe that every single place on Earth has something interesting to photograph in some conditions. It might be that you have explored your town and maybe there isn't anything super interesting at first glance, but maybe you haven't gone to the right places, or maybe you have, but maybe you have gone there at the wrong times of day. Because what looks boring midday might be super interesting at sunrise or sunset or at night or in foggy conditions, rainy conditions. So do not underestimate what can be found locally. Because even though I've got the privilege of traveling the world, I've still got majority of my best photos in my hometown. There is a massive advantage of you understanding the location like your own pockets. So I would make sure I explore locally, I train my eye locally as well, and do not just think I need to travel to take photos. So let's imagine you have your camera gear and you're confident in using it. Now, you are better than many people in photography, but you aren't a great photographer yet because you don't understand the storytelling of photography. So that's what I would learn next. And storytelling in photography is a combination of composition and editing. Now, storytelling is an absolutely huge topic, and that's why it's way out of the scope of this video, but I do want to go through three main things that I would make sure to focus on if I was studying it now. But if you're somebody who does want to dive deeper into visual storytelling and you really want to make photographs that speak, evoke emotions in other people, and that you are able to translate your vision on field into compelling photographs, then DM me one-to-one on Instagram at Hugography, and we can see if my Storylens mentorship is a good fit for you. If you don't have Instagram, just take a short mentorship assessment from the link in the description. Anyway, let's go through the few things that I would absolutely keep in my mind when I want to make photographs that do stand out and really do tell stories and evoke emotions in me and other people. And let's do this with my story triangle. So as you can see, here's mood, focus, and moment. Let's start with the moment. So what's happening? If you're taking a photograph of something extremely boring, then likely the photograph is gonna be extremely boring. Now you don't need to have the most extraordinary moment to make a good photograph, but the more extraordinary the moment you're capturing, the more extraordinary your photograph is also gonna be. So make sure what you are photographing is actually interesting. Like, let's take an example. If you take a photograph of a trash bin, it's gonna be a difficult thing to make that into an amazing photograph. Now, of course, if there's amazing lighting going on and interesting colors going on, it can make for a great photograph. But in most cases, like whatever you do to a trash bin, it's not gonna be a great photograph. Once I know I have an interesting moment or element in front of me, I would get clear on this second thing. And the second thing is what most beginners especially miss. And after analyzing a ton of photographs from my students inside my mentorship, I can see that this thing alone separates those with like bad photographs or like average photographs from those who make great photographs. Like this one thing alone makes you much better than majority of people out there as photographers. And what this is that you just get very clear what you want the viewer to watch in the photograph. And this is the second thing in the story triangle, focus. So focus doesn't here mean where is the focus point of the photograph necessarily. It means what is the thing you want the viewer to watch in the photograph. When I see photographs from many beginners, they are typically like very wide and include a lot of stuff, but I don't know where to watch. It's like there's so many things going on, it's like I don't know what to watch. And then if I don't know what to watch, I keep guessing like what is the photograph about, then I also don't get an emotional reaction out of the photograph. So it is very important. It is first of all clear for you what is the thing you want somebody to watch in the photograph. Don't have a zillion things because then it's confusing. Pick one very clear thing. Of course you can have multiple subjects, but like one very, very clear thing. Like what's the main thing you want somebody to see? What's the first thing you want somebody to see in the photograph? And that alone is gonna separate you from the crowd because most people don't have it clear and then their photographs just fall flat. So make sure it is clear for yourself and for other people. A simple question you can ask yourself, and this sounds really simple, but most people don't ask this, is on field when you're taking a photograph, just ask, what am I taking a photo of? That's it. Really simple. Thirdly, I would make sure I photograph mostly when the conditions are great. Because the thing is that the more ordinary the conditions are, the more ordinary your photograph is gonna look like. That's how it goes. So if you are thinking, it's like, okay, well, I do settings right, I do composition right, I do editing right, why is my photograph still falling flat? It might be that the conditions just went right. Maybe you were taking photos midday instead of like sunrise, sunset, night, when it's foggy, very rainy. So this is what most beginners don't get, like how much lighting makes for a difference. There is a reason why professionals like me really plan shoots around certain lighting. I make sure that when I'm taking photographs, I want sunrise, blue hour, sunset, or then, well, a certain phase of a night. So understand lighting makes for a massive difference, and you must make sure that you do photograph in great lighting to get the best photos. Fourthly, I would get a great understanding of editing. First, I want to tell you that editing is totally okay. There's people who say like, oh, or like think editing, it's not okay. And the thing is that photography is an art form. So nobody can tell you what is the right way to go about this. That's how it goes. Some people like to edit more, some people don't like to edit at all. You can do whatever you please. But if you do shoot in RAW format, then you need to process your photograph in some ways. And I would recommend that you do shoot in RAW so you have more control over the final result. And most of the photographers that you look up to are taking their photographs in RAW format, because they know they can fix some mistakes in the end. Everybody makes mistakes when taking photographs, even professionals like me. And we want to have some room for fixing certain stuff. And we also want to make our unique touches to the photograph. Editing is what really makes your photograph like stand out from others. It's like you can do it, of course, with composition and what you take photos of, but editing allows you to get a signature look so much more easily to your work. So I would make sure to learn editing and how to evoke emotions with editing and how to guide the viewer's eye with editing. That's what editing is about. Now we have gone through the gear, the setting side of things, and many things regarding storytelling in photography, but here's still the money side. Some of you might be like me who want to earn with your craft, and this doesn't need to be necessarily exactly by taking photographs, but using your craft to earn money. And I'm here to tell you that in 2026 and beyond, it is absolutely doable. Now you of course must solve a problem when it comes to making money with your photographs. That if your photos don't solve a problem for a person or a company, then you won't get paid. But understand, you absolutely can make a living with taking photographs as well. And if you are somebody who wants to understand what are the steps to take to go from somebody who isn't confident in their photography to actually making a living with their photography, then watch this video on the screen right now where I go through the exact steps that I would take to go full-time in 2026. Leave a like, subscribe, and see you there.